Hello, I'm James Cridland, the radio futurologist, and this is Radioland, my international radio trends newsletter from radioland.email. And this podcast is sponsored by rss.com. And if you've just heard some ads, then the good news is you can now pay to get rid of them in Apple Podcasts by following the link in Apple Podcasts to become a supporter and listen ad-free. Just look in Apple Podcasts for more information. And the only reason I can do that is that rss.com has added this functionality automatically. So I can feed an ad-free version to premium supporters and the normal ad-supported one to everyone else. You should give it a go yourself at rss.com. Now, the AI Top 40 is worth a listen. If nothing else, it calls itself a live, fully AI-generated chart show, and the AI has apparently been trained on 47,000 hours of real broadcast audio, rather than just whatever junk is on the internet. It sounds tightly produced. The host is called Nexus James, and he sounds like a typical US radio announcer. Sounds surprisingly tightly produced to a point where I'm not entirely convinced it is entirely AI. And it's a soulless antiseptic experience that won't annoy anyone, but probably won't leave them with anything to remember. That said, it's a chart show, so perhaps the opportunity for human connection is less at the forefront of that experience. Perhaps this is where AI can be used, similar to traffic and weather, or perhaps not. As an aside, by the way, Gold Brisbane's travel news person is the warmest, friendliest travel person I've heard for a long, long time. I guess, too, that the US is a country that grew up with the tediously dull Casey Kasem. Think a NPR speech presenter doing a top 40 chart. Just doesn't work. Although the US did also grow up with the Rick Dees Weekly Top 40. And here's a side note, Rick Dees is still counting down the hits. My goodness, he sounds a little bit different to when I was playing his show out in the early 1990s, but he's still going. If you want to have a listen, there's a link in the Radioland email. You can find that at radioland.email. Over on the day job, I've spotted that there are now more AI-generated podcasts being made than real ones. And radio could follow this path too if we're not careful. Or we could focus on human connection and the shared experience that comes from that. Perhaps that might be radio's USP as we move forward. RTE Radio 1 in Ireland, which is a full-service radio station, has a new jingle package. It's got a proper orchestra. It's got a warm, full sound of what I can actually hear under people wittering on about how good it is on a link that you'll find at radioland.email. Anyway, it's very nice stuff and well worth a peek and a listen. Now, do you want a radio company cheap? Only a few outstanding liabilities, Governor. ARN's share price went down to 18 cents last week. And then 71 million shares were bought by persons unknown. Market cap I've written here is 68.8 million. Let's just double check that. It's 73.5 million as it is now. Anyway, Jackie Henderson says that she's owed 82 million, so still not enough for that. My personal opinion is that Kyle shouldn't be owed anything at all, but not that it'll stop him confidently blustering on. It's fun to compare ARN, which has a Sydney market share of 16.5%, with SEN, which has a Sydney market share of 1.2%, which owns a number of barely listened to radio stations in the cap cities. They're apparently worth $68.8 million as well. The stock market is a strange place. In the quarter hour this week with Wade Kingsley from The Breakfast Show on Triple J, co-host Luca Miller speaks with Wade. There's a special episode about KSHE 95, or is that KSHE? It's in St. Louis anyway, it's the rock radio station. And Callum Jaspin from the Sydney Morning Herald talks about Jackie O. Henderson's allegations against ARN, which went to court last week. That's all in the quarter hour, which you can find wherever you found this podcast. Interesting to spot in radio today that Arqiva, the UK's radio transmission company, is now offering streaming as a service to radio stations. The service also apparently includes some automated podcast tools as well, which makes obvious sense to me that Arqiva would be doing that sort of thing, but it's the first that I know about it. It's probably been going for 10 years. Who knows? The excellent Michael Hill, formerly of the BBC and of Radio Player, has been invited to be a trustee and director of London arts and community station Resonance FM. It's excellent to see Michael back in the audio world. And good news for fans of the BBC in Australia. The BBC News Channel is now available on 9 Now, the free streaming app. 9 has access to a number of fast channels from the BBC, including BBC Food, BBC Home and Garden, BBC Comedy, BBC Antiques Roadshow, I wonder what that's got on it, and BBC Top Gear UK, similar. The BBC News Channel is given top billing, though, under 9's 5 channels. It's very similar to the feed on the BBC's own website, which is exclusive to Australia and the US, in my understanding, but the 9 Now version has a few paid-for ads in the ad breaks, followed by a musical filler track to fill the space, and nothing really on the screen other than a caption promising it'll be right back. Rather annoyingly, it's not using the break filler music composed for the channel either, but instead just an edit of the countdown music, which really doesn't loop very well. By the way, you can enjoy the BBC News theme in full, if you wanted to, on Spotify, where composer David Lowe has published a set of mixes of that, even the break filler music, just saying. Worth taking a peek at. Anyway, this is where I now tell you where I'm speaking next, which I need to find a different screen for. So let's do that. Oh, look, I found it. An ordinary podcaster would edit this out. But still, there we are. Where am I speaking next? At the podcast show in London, May the 20th to the 21st, assuming that Qantas doesn't cancel my flight. I'll be keynoting there. I'm also recording a Pod News Weekly review there as well. And I discovered today moderating a panel, so that's nice. That should all be fun. You should go as well. Podcastshowlondon.com is, I think, the website address. And yes, it's an excellent event for all things podcasting. Forward is the Western Canada Media Conference in Kelowna in BC. I will be there. I've booked the flight with Air Canada. They're not going to cancel that on me, are they? No, that should be fine. Anyway, details of that to come. And Radio Days Asia is in Jakarta in Indonesia in September. I'm usually a speaker at that event. I would heartily recommend it to you as well. RadioDaysAsia.com is where to get that. And I'm not only heartily recommending it just because the general manager of Radio Days Asia listens to this podcast. Thank you to the many supporters of this newsletter and of the podcast as well, plus Dafith Furnham, Marty from New York, Marty, Gavin Watson, Greg Strassel, Sam Phelps, Richard Hilton, Emma Gibbs, Jocelyn Abbey and James Masterton for being regular supporters. I should thank some of the big companies as well. So let's thank Radio King and Meliora and Clyde Broadcast. If you would like to support my work in any way, you can buy me a coffee. Become a member to give regularly, or just give a one-off coffee or 5 if you want to do that. That's all fine. Buymeacoffee.com/James Cridland is where to go. There is a email version of this newsletter, obviously, radioland.email. Yes, correct. And I'm also on Mastodon as well, if you're there too. It would be nice if you were. My website has more details about who I am, what I do, and whether I can help you further. That is at james.cridland.net. And until next time, keep listening.